Metal Jesus, I am back again to talk about something that is very close to my heart, and that is racing games. I love racing games, I always have, and I probably always will. But the thing that breaks my heart a little bit is that there are some games out there that have been forgotten. They're a little neglected, and it's my job to make sure that people don't forget these games. And so this is going to be a really fun video for me because I just can't wait to do it. It's going to be so much fun. And if you are a racing fan, there's going to be some gems in here. So let's take a look. Start off with a fairly kind of weird racing game called Pod. This game was released in 1997, and it's a futuristic racer with 32 kind of weird and wacky tracks that take place in a post-apocalyptic landscape.
Pod is in the final stages of its destructive cycle. Planet Io and everyone left on it will die. To kill time, we've been using parts from abandoned factories and forgotten equipment to transform cars into superpowered vehicles and race them around the empty streets of Io.
Now, back when this game originally came out, I had seen nothing like it on the PC. As a matter of fact, this game supported the Pentium MMX technology that had just came out and was being highlighted in this game. And also it took advantage of 3D accelerator cards. And it was one of the first that I'd ever seen that had really smooth textures if you had that hardware. I remember this game doing something really neat back in 1997, and that was you could go to the Ubisoft website and download additional cars and tracks. And to me, that was just so futuristic. I hadn't played a game quite like that, where it was really well supported after you bought it. Of course, nowadays that's completely, commonplace, but back then it was pretty neat, and I love this game quite a bit. Now here's a little forgotten gem that a lot of gamers have forgotten about, and that is Slipstream 5000. Slipstream 5000 was released in 1995 for DOS, and although it looks kind of dated today, it was beautiful back then. I remember seeing it on a buddy of mine's computer and just being kind of blown away by it. Now, one of the things that makes it really interesting is that it's not cars, it's actually anti-gravity machines that come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So this is a futuristic racing game, and it was really neat at the time. Now, it kind of reminds me of the Star Wars Episode 1 pod racing game, and also a little bit of Wipeout. Now, what I mean by that is because this game has anti-gravity machines, they tend to kind of slide around corners. This game almost feels almost like a flight simulator in some regards. And you also have power-ups to do damage. So there's a combat aspect of this game as well. So you'll fly through, a power-up that gives you maybe more weapons, or it'll repair your engine. It'll give you temporary turbo boost, things like that.
Vicky Vance and the Knightsbridge Thunder 4000. Stunningly beautiful with a mind to match, Victoria is a breed apart, and she knows it.
Another thing I noticed about this game is just how much the track design seems to resemble that classic game Descent. And if you are a fan of Pod Racer, Wipeout, and Descent, wow, this is the game for you. Now we're getting to one of the oldest games on this list, and that is a game called Stunts. This was released in 1990. And it is one of the earliest examples of a true 3D driving game back in the day. And I know this game doesn't look like much today, but back then this was mind-blowing. It really pushed the PC racing genre as far as it possibly could at that time. I remember being able to just barely run this game, and I loved every minute of it. So Stunts is a really interesting mix of the classic Atari game called Hard Driving, so it's somewhat of a simulator, and it also has this really wacky stunts aspect to it, and the stunts in this game are awesome. They're the kind of stunts you would want to do. You have massive barrel rolls, you have these huge jumps where you get tons of air. It's just so much fun, even today. Now, I think for a lot of Stunts fans like me, one of the best features was the fairly robust track editor that came with this game. You could just go crazy building your own tracks, packing in as many stunts as possible, and playing them all day. It was a wonderful thing. And now we're at a little bit more modern game. This is the Dreamcast, and this is the year 2000. And this is certainly a forgotten gem. I love Suzuki All-Star Extreme Racing. And again, I mentioned this is on the Dreamcast. And it was made by a company called Criterion Games. Now, if that sounds kind of familiar, it's because Criterion went on to make the fantastic renderware engine that was used by a bunch of games, including their masterpieces, which were the Burnout games. Love those games, love those racing games. And this is not quite at that quality, but you can certainly see where they are going. As a matter of fact, they also, around this time, released another motorcycle game on the PC called Redline Racer. And that game shares quite a bit with this one. As a matter of fact, some of the tracks are very similar. Probably this game's most standout feature is its incredible sense of speed. You just feel like you are just flying by the seat of your pants and you can crash at any moment. As a matter of fact, it's almost too fast for the controls. But once you take a couple laps, you get into the vibe of this game and it becomes a lot of fun, although pretty white-knuckled. It's pretty crazy. And what goes along with that is the really fun track design for this game. Again, it's a total arcade racer, not a shred of realism in this, but a ton of fun. Old school racing game fans will sure to remember this game, which was called Screamer. This was released in 1995, and what we loved about it was that it was completely unrealistic. It didn't try to be a simulator at all. You didn't have to tweak your car, you didn't have to worry about this or that. All you had to do is just power slide around corners and make it to the end. It was a lot of fun. It actually kind of reminds me of a little bit more modern day version of Outrun. Very similar in style. Now, I do remember this game pushing the limits of my PC quite a bit. As a matter of fact, this game has an advanced graphic mode, this SVGA mode, that I don't think my Pentium computer was ever able to run, with any decent frame rate. So it was pretty advanced for its time, and it has a sense of beauty even today. It's a pretty cool game. Not great, but it's pretty cool.
Great driving, pal.
And now we come to one of my favorite racing games of all time, and that is Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. I love this game. It's such a gem. And I know it's not loved by every Need for Speed fan, and I understand because this game's a little bit more simulator, but it's still really cool, so I have to cover it. Now, I know it might be a bit of a shock to see a Need for Speed game on this video. I mean, how is that possibly forgotten? But I really do feel that this game is sort of the black sheep of that series. It doesn't get a lot of love, and I think that's a real shame because I think what it does very well. This game was released for Windows and also for the original PlayStation. You're looking at the Windows version here. This was released in 2000. And maybe it goes without saying, but this game only has Porsche cars. So it is a complete history of Porsche from 1950 to the year 2000. And it has old photographs, it has historical videos, and so much more. As a matter of fact, when I got this game originally, I didn't know that much about this brand. I was always a Ferrari or Lamborghini guy. And I just loved learning about and driving these classic cars and going through the years and progressing and getting better and better. It was a really great experience. Now, I also think that the graphics have held up pretty well, especially for a game that's 12 plus years old. One of the things I really liked about it is that it had a really strong sense of lighting. So for instance, often in this game you are either racing at dawn or dusk. And so it has this kind of orange tint or this early morning blue tint. When you're racing at night, you can kind of feel the city lights. I don't know, it just has a beauty to it that I still appreciate even today. Now, I want to say that if your only experience with this game is playing the PlayStation 1 version, I don't think that's a good representation for it. As a matter of fact, I consider that version, which I also have, just to be way stripped down. It's not nearly as in-depth as this, and the track design is significantly truncated. So definitely, if you get a chance, check out the proper Windows version. So that's a quick look at some of the racing games that I feel have been sadly forgotten over the last couple of years. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, some of these are actually still for sale on websites like GOG.com, where they sell old PC games for fairly cheap. So if you're interested in checking some of those out, go there. They're really cool, and you know, they run decently on most computers. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for watching my channel, and as always, thank you for subscribing. Take care.